Today, we have Anup Chamrajnagar. Anup and his team built Gradial. Their platform automates CMS authoring, ticket routing and triage, campaign and experiment building, and quality assurance for enterprises.
Our first idea actually was we might want to automate the configuration process of some of these platforms a little bit faster. It's a source of a lot of revenue. It's also a source of a lot of customer opposite of love, I'll say. We work within your systems to power and accelerate, your spaghetti-like string of process that is today, and help you streamline that for faster execution and getting more things out the door faster than you ever have.
The Art of Commerce is a podcast featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. Hosted by Anish, a data-obsessed creative director, and Jinx, a growth-obsessed CMO. Listen on for actionable insights for the modern marketer.
Yeah, so the last episode, we had an awesome conversation around, your background, how you met your co-founders, the concept of vibe marketing, which is just awesome. We thought it might be insane or brilliant. Now we know it's brilliant. So just for the audience, can you take us through what does Gradial actually do, and what's the value prop, and how could they see it realized in their workflows?
Yeah, definitely. So, a lot of AI solutions, especially in the marketing industry, have been really innovative across the past several years. And in enterprise marketing, a lot of these AI solutions are typically used for content creation. So creating new articles, blogs, assets, images, things like that. But as we approach this world of agentic, a lot of these AI solutions do not necessarily carry it forward, meaning there's a whole other part of the creative process that's so focused on approvals, execution, orchestration, and actually getting it out the door in your web and email channels. Integrating with all of the different systems and handoffs between your ticketing system, your CMS, your DAM, making sure all of the hygiene is properly maintained there, and ultimately delivering on insights to make the content better, right? And there's different systems for that. And so Gradial is a content execution agent that stretches across all of your different systems of record and the marketing platforms that you use today to get from idea to execution and then iteration and improvement as fast as possible so that you can have more at-bats, you can have more personalized content, and you can kind of deliver scale at an efficient rate that, you frankly really wanted but haven't been able to have.
Wow. Personalization at scale is something I am personally very interested and invested in. Jinx and I, we've done a lot of great work around that, specifically for customer acquisition. But Anup, before we go into the possibilities that this unlocks for personalization, I want to take a step back and ask you, what is different about Gradial that you cannot do with an Airtable automation or a brand folder or any of those, digital asset management systems? What sets you apart, and why should someone specifically ask for Gradial of their IT team or their leadership?
Yeah. I think that we are purposefully agnostic across systems. And I think a lot of these systems are so large that they've built these ecosystems that they really want their users to stay inside, right? They care about, eyeballs. They care about time spent on their platform. If I look at the Adobe ecosystem, they have Workfront, AEM Sites, AEM Assets, Adobe Target, AJO, Journey Optimizer, Marketo. They want you to stay in their ecosystem. But the reality is, someone may be using AEM Sites and then Binder for their DAM and Jira for their ticketing system and Salesforce Marketing Cloud for their outbound system. They have a bunch of different systems that they're using. And the reality is that they're not actually using the entire Adobe ecosystem, or they're not using the entire Binder feature set. They've amalgamated different workflows through all of these systems. And the idea is to remain agnostic so that you can actually perform the work that's done across these platforms at scale.
Interesting. So you obviously don't, user engagement or time spent on platform is not your number one success metric for Gradial. What is it?
It's consumption. So it's how much do you actually use the digital coworker that you have to do work, right? And so we're very fair about the way that we go to market and the way we price for customers. We think that in general, software is generally approaching towards a commodity. And so you shouldn't be paying high margins to do something that, is just a bunch of buttons on a digital platform, right? The real value here is doing the work, right? And so we have a common expression here, that we say, we're the workflow that does the work, right? And so that's really like our North Star, is instead of just staying as a task management system or staying as a system of record, how do you be both that actually transfers things over time and changes what used to be 50 tasks into 20 tasks that work harmoniously between humans and AI?
Wow.
That's really cool. And in your view, is Gradial bringing together, you talked about disparate stacks and disparate technologies. Like, is Gradial kind of like the linchpin between them in your ideal view of the way that it connects the workflow to the technology?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that nobody got into marketing to move a picture like 2 decimals to the left or make a simple content update on their page. It's like the little things that end up taking 90% of everyone's time, right? They would rather spend their time thinking about strategy and execution and more at bats and how do I double the amount of campaigns. If I'm doubling the amount of campaigns per year, what are those campaigns actually about? Right? Thinking through the creative cycles there and freeing up time in the little things is our main priority.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we've heard it from several companies, AI companies. That's like, how do we allow the marketers to have fun? Like that's
Yes.
what they wanted to do, right? That's why we came to the market to have fun, not move pixels around and not
Yes.
create segments or whatever. Like, actually,
Make the
what's
logo
the strategy?
bigger.
What's the creative? How do
Yeah.
we drive revenue? Like, that's the fun
Exactly.
part.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think people have this perception that enterprise marketing is like Mad Men, and you're just sitting there, looking at cool billboards, and you're like, oh yeah, what if this billboard looked like that? And when you actually look under the hood, it's so much of that little stuff that goes on that it's almost akin to how an engineering team operates. It's, people think it's closer to how a sales team operates, which is talking to customers all day and, being, out and about and talking and so many conversations, but it's actually like really being in the weeds, and moving a lot of these things around to make things happen. And so, we want to get it closer to we want to get it closer to Mad Men. Mad Men's cool. I love Draper.
Yeah.
So, it's a cool North Star to aim towards.
Wow. Anup, tell me about your agents. Is there one worker agent? Is there a series of agents? What's the thinking behind developing behind the scenes artificial workforce?
Yeah. So I think that, we definitely believe that there is, like a potential for like death by agent, meaning, you don't want to over consume the customer with 20, 25, 30 agents, because then people start wondering, what is this agent for? What is that agent for? When do I use this agent? When do I invoke that agent? So we've built a very flexible architecture that has, 5 to 6 agents maximum, but you can incorporate your own agents if needed. If you have some 1P agents that you have, or you have an MCP that you want to integrate with, Gradial can integrate with that. But we are the orchestrator that decides which one of those to invoke at any time. And we tell you what we're invoking when we're invoking it, right? So nothing operates in a black box. The agents are actually telling you exactly what they're thinking while they're doing the work, which people really like seeing. And you can talk to each of those. But I think that a lot of these large software companies, in the public markets have to sell like 20 or 30 agents, because it would interfere with their business models if they didn't, right? Because they have been so used to selling brochures with cool buttons and seats and add-ons and modules, and they can't really sell what should fundamentally be the right way to sell AI, which is just doing the work, right? It's kind of how the LLMs sell, right? They're selling on a tokens-based model, and you're just basically running it up. And the tokens are a bit of a black box for them. They're able to get away with it, but ultimately, you're measuring your utility of something like Claude based on the output that you're getting from it, right? And that's so fundamentally different than the way that all of these people have priced, that it is hard for a lot of, both investors and the, executives at those public companies to really wrap their head around.
Wow. I really like the no BS approach to marketing. I mean, because you're not traditionally a marketer, you can just look from the outside and just look at what matters and just strive to scale that. That is awesome.
I appreciate it.
So, but it's funny because you do hit on the thing that is every marketer's dream, which is this idea of one-to-one personalization at scale. So, like from your perspective, from Gradial's perspective, like how do you do that? What's your secret sauce to get that going?
Yeah. So ultimately, if you think about what personalization at true scale is, if there's 100 million people that I want to reach, I should have 100 million different journeys and variants, right? Like every journey truly to be personalized, it should be personalized. Like it should be personalized to a niche, to Jace, to a noob.
Mm-hmm.
There should be subtleties in the journey that I can only recognize, and that appeals to me personally because everyone has their own individual journey. In order to do that, you have to create 100 million variants. And the fundamental principle there is that what is preventing someone from doing 100 million variants? It isn't the content availability because you could definitely produce 100 million variants of something, right? It's the review and the strategy and the execution of actually creating those 100 million variants that is bottlenecking that. Right. And so I think that, as AI usage scales in general and content production will also scale accordingly, the bottleneck will persist to be getting that out in channels that actually matter and loading them and serving them out in the right ways and right times and, right speed and things like that. And so going towards that element of things, we want to unblock that as fast as possible. And so that's our wedge and route to one-to-one marketing. We think that execution and, unbottlenecking that is the fastest way to get there.
Does Gradial also look at customer signals or does it get smarter with each execution? Like those 100 million variations only matter if they convert. So
yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, glad you asked that, Anish. So we started with execution, but obviously the natural next step to go is iteration and improvement, right?
Correct.
And there are two avenues that we recently launched, actually, hot off the presses. We know that GEO has taken the world by storm, and optimizing pages to fit in a GEO world. And when we were looking at the players in the space, we realized that none of them actually do execution. They're all strategy and telling you what's wrong with your content, right? I get this visual of like a complaint box that someone's just putting more and more complaints in, but no one's actually resolving the complaints, right? And so that's still kind of on the teams to create this like new experience that's outfitted for GEO. And so we have a product that basically gives you all of the similar GEO recommendations that a bunch of other engines do. But because we're connected to your different systems that can update, our recommendations come with a blue button that literally makes the update in near real time for you, right? So it starts a task in Gradial that actually goes and does it. So we complete the loop with GEO. So that's one part. The second part is we realize GEO is one small subsegment of the customer journey. GEO covers the agent's journey or the LLM's journey, but there's obviously people like you and me that also go through these experiences. And so we've built something we call CX Optimizer that essentially creates these synthetic buyers according to who your buyer profiles are. And so we'll connect to your systems to understand who the right buyers are across your journey. And then we will actually take those buyers through a pre-publish and post-publish journey and tell you what those buyers are actually thinking, where the sources of frustration are, where they got happy during the process. Then we'll give you recommendations about how to improve the latency time of that journey to get them to convert more. And then once again, because we built execution first, that's inherent to everything that Gradial does. We connect it on the other side and actually close the loop. So we're really excited about those two solutions.
That's it. First of all, super cool on Geo because I'm looking at all kinds of tools, and you're exactly right. Like, great. Now, how do we get it done? And then you got to get a task force together to make the content, to do the thing. So, like, to your point about, from identification to execution in one click, like, totally resonates. You made a statement though in the second one, which I thought was really cool too, where you said, "Hey, where customers are happy or they're showing frustration." Like, how are you peeling out like happiness and frustration, right? Like the emotion.
Yeah, I think, that's a bit of the secret sauce behind our folks. I think we spent a lot of time in the back end coming up with this optimization product. I mean, this is something we started developing like 1.5 years ago. And in AI world, that's like 20 years, of doing stuff. And so, we've done a lot of sentiment analysis and, how to actually measure sentiment on a relative basis. And think that we've gotten it pretty good based on the results that we're seeing so far. So really excited about it.
What scares me as someone who manages customer journeys for an enterprise website is just identifying which visitor is human through an LLM, and which visitor is an agent or a bot. Because now you suddenly have a whole new subset of audiences who care about different things,
Yes.
My impression is that an agent or an agent crawler would probably care more about the feature benefits so they can translate that into a list of comparative tables for the decision maker, which is the human. But when a human finally arrives at the website, it's all about emotion, it's all about acquisition, maybe retention. And those are two different pitches, which now suddenly all e-commerce people will have to account for.
Yes.
Anup, do you have any tips for someone in my shoes to how do you approach this whole new set of audiences that are coming to your website via these agents and simulated journeys? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people you want to accelerate the amount of variance that you could produce, because I think, if you take a simple example of, forget the human plus AI for a second, just pure AI and pure human, the human is going to appeal more to a core landing page that is beautiful, very colorful. There's a lot of brand identity. There's like a sizzle reel at the very beginning. It draws their eyes. It draws their attention. Big letters, big numbers. And AI doesn't care about any of that, right?
No.
They actually prefer you not to do that, and it prefers to have like a super boring FAQ page that has a lot of citations on it, right? And so you don't want to like change your core landing page, right? You just want to add variance, right, to actually appeal to those systems a little bit better, right? And so because we work with Fortune 1000, Fortune 500 companies, they're not using us for GEO to gain visibility, because the LLMs are training on Amazon. They're training on Microsoft.
Right.
They're training on all these guys anyway, right? They are the blue chip standard to begin with, right? And so they're going to show up on every list that you search naturally, right? By the LLM. The thing that they're trying to do is, one, they're trying to be slightly above their competitors. So those leaderboards are always constantly changing. And the second piece is they're trying to gain notoriety, right? They're going from reputation and recognition to true like notoriety, like being the thing in the space, right? And so that's what we're helping all of our players kind of thinking about, of what are all the things that people are now looking into much more that you're not getting cited in, or you're not getting mentioned in, right? And how do you get a wider swath of those mentions and cite a bit of visibility without sacrificing your human experience, right? So the only way to do that is to create more variance, and that execution again is the bottleneck there.
Yeah, I mean, if for listeners, if you are someone like me who's thinking about similar questions, hit up Anup, hit up Gradial team.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll find a lot of value.
Yeah.
What up, Jinx?
Speaking of hitting up, sorry,
a Gradial beanie. We've got to be Seattle proud here. So
I know
Anup, you gotta hook us up, man. Like, let us
you need the swag.
send us some swag in Denver.
Oh, of course, man. We have a whole supply closet that's like teeming with it now.
Like, we got plenty. So on that note, on the concept of meetup, swag, Adobe Summit, we're going to be there. You're going to be there. Our listeners, some of them are going to be there. What is Gradial talking about at Adobe Summit? What can we look forward to you guys announcing or reinforcing? Give us a preview.
Yeah, sneak peek. We're going to be renting out Milos, restaurant close by. We're having kind of exciting presentations there and all around kind of the summit floor. So meet us at Milos. Feel free to drop by or check in. The list is piling up right now. There's a lot of people interested, so we're really excited about it. And there we're creating something called we call it a marketing wellness center. So you go there to kind of get the healthy spin on marketing and what's
Love it.
going on, and make yourself feel better about the current situation. And we're demoing some really cool things that we've had in R&D for some time that we're really excited. We're building it in consort with some of the biggest companies in the world, and so we're very, very
Amazing.
excited to announce that, as well as our typical kind of run-of-the-mill product suite that we do have customers with. There will be incredible customer and partner panels across the entire event that we'll be hosting in that space. So leaders from category leaders from all the biggest companies in financial services, healthcare, technology, will all be speaking about their adoption of not only Gradial but agentic AI in general. So if you want to see just getting down to the brass tacks of agentic AI adoption, come to Milos, and our signups are all over our LinkedIn profile. We're posting about it nearly every day at this point. So sign up for one of the panels, and we can. I'm happy to myself show you a demo or two of what we're doing.
That's
Let's go.
amazing. So you're going to show some of the geo stuff and that you talked about, and
yeah.
even and beyond.
Yeah,
What kind
Geo, and I can't mention one of the other things because it's truly it's truly kind of in the works, but it's really I think it's probably one of the most innovative things in the space. But yes, Geo, CX Optimizer, kind of like a new way of kind of handling assets, things like that will be par for the course. Plus some other things that will be super, super interesting.
Unbelievable.
That
Well,
sounds
I
sick.
can't
I'm
wait.
gonna
We'll
be
be
there.
there. We're gonna check it out. That's for sure. And our
Yeah.
listeners should definitely check it out. And they should follow Anup on LinkedIn and Gradial on LinkedIn to see all of what's going on and register for the summit event. So Anup, it's been amazing to have you here. I think we got you for a couple minutes, and what we'd like to do kind of at the end is kind of a little lightning round. Like, are you open to doing a little bit?
Of course, always ready.
All right, man. Okay, cool. All right, so first question. What is something that marketing teams do today that they should stop doing immediately?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that creating tasks that could potentially be accelerated with an agent. At this point, I think everyone is using some form of AI, and I think getting creative with the actual tasks themselves can be thought of differently. So I think people should not necessarily just stop and drop everything, but seriously rethink some of those things as fast as they can.
Yeah,
Awesome.
instead of gesmeering ko raw being an email, gesmeering ko raw being a Gradial request, let's get on with it.
It could have been the blue button. All I have to hit it.
I could have just sent my agent to do this podcast. Like, I didn't even need it.
We don't know if he's real or not. We can't tell yet. We'll figure it out. So, okay. So you guys came, you were in hedge funds, satellite, AI dev. What's harder? Any one of those categories or marketing?
It's funny, actually. My co-founders who actually were the rocket scientists tell me that this is harder than rocket science. So it is truly, when you have an art form that is equally science as much as it's an art form, it is really hard to constantly innovate on it. But it's super exciting, and the best problems are often the most unsolvable ones. So we're stoked for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you're Seattle born and raised, right? And then you moved away and came back?
Yep. Yeah, I was born in California, but raised in Washington. Yeah.
So you're a Seattle sports fan through and through.
Yeah, huge.
Okay. So what would you give for the Supersonics to come back to Seattle?
Well, I think that they did, right? They just haven't named it the Sonics yet, but the NBA, I think, a couple weeks ago just approved. the new team. Yeah, for us and then one other state. So they're coming back, baby.
Okay, all right. So he doesn't have to give anything. Look at that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
You just will. You just got to build a couple agents, and then something will come. That's about it.
AI-driven expansion teams. I love it. I
Exactly.
love it. Unbelievable. Well, this was great. Anup, we're excited to see you at Adobe Summit. We'll be there. Folks listening, this is going to actually come out the week of Adobe Summit, I believe. So go check it out if you're there. If not, follow Anup on LinkedIn. Follow Gradial on LinkedIn. They'll, I'm sure, be showing you everything they're doing there at scale on those platforms. So just so excited to have you here, Anup. So excited to meet in person at Adobe Summit. Anish, anything you want to close us out with?
No, check out Gradial, check out Anup. Be sure to follow Jinx. Be sure to follow me. And we'll see you next week with another fantastic episode. Thanks for
like
tuning
and
in.
subscribe to The Art of Commerce, and we'll be here same time, same place next week. Anup, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
man.
you. Thanks, guys.
This is The Art of Commerce, featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. If you found value in today's episode, follow the show, leave a review, and stay tuned for more insights for the minds reshaping modern marketing.